This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. And again, here we are. So, anyway.
Talking about another good friend of mine. There's just no end to the talented folks, is there?
Yeah. Well, the thing is I admire artists. Well, I like art. But the thing is I'm one of those, I have a hard time drawing a straight line.
Oh,
so,
me too. I got
to
no
someone
artistic
sit
ability.
down in front of a blank piece of paper or a canvas and be able to create, scenes and it comes to life. It's just amazing to me.
Weren't you impressed with Mike Boss's art?
Yes, very much so.
What an imagination he has. And his art has such a sense of fun and energy. And he's such an accomplished person and an accomplished musician and just another one of those amazing Kansans.
Yeah. And I think one of the lines in the story was born with a paintbrush in his right hand. So.
Yeah, and you will see why when you see this segment. Just amazing. Mike was telling me one time he did an exhibit and he did some Chinese emperor, Yangtze's treasure ships and they had red masts, and that is an incredible painting. And it's like, wow, who knew? When you got this guy from Hill City, Kansas, painting Chinese treasure ships. It's like, what an amazing world we live in, Frank.
Yeah. So anyway, let's take a look at the story about him. It is highly probable that native Kansan Mike Boss was born with a paintbrush in his right hand. Mike's formative years were filled with highly unimaginative grade school, highly imaginative writings, plastic model kits, some television and movies, but most of all, many of the illustrators of the 50s and 60s. The brilliant men and women writing for Little Golden Books, Treasure Books, Whitman, and others brought visions of characters dreamed up from both fact and fiction. The gifted illustrators brought those characters to colorful life, inspiring Mike along with millions of children. His earliest art reflects the same expression as today: trains, planes, cars, trucks, ships, boats. All those images that triggered the imagination of the boy continue to inspire the man. After graduating from high school, Mike majored in music at Southern Illinois University. Then he dug out an article he had saved from Private Pilot magazine, and rereading it, decided to touch base with the artist-illustrator who would become his mentor, Jack Leynnwood. Leynnwood's work is familiar to most Americans through his illustration of model kits. The friendship between the two lasted until Leynnwood's death decades later. Following Leynnwood's practice, Mike continues to paint a full spectrum of aviation, space, rail, marine, landscapes, never to be pigeonholed into just one or two genres. Mike could also be characterized as an historian. Extensive research is obvious in his attention to detail, from period costumes and colors right down to direction and time of day lighting. Each painting has a story of its own, as seen through the annals of history and through the eyes of the man who holds the brush. His work is in galleries and homes of private collectors all around the world. The only thing fonder to Michael's heart than the canvas and his music was Buckwheat, his late and beloved toy poodle, who can still be found, if you look very carefully, hanging out somewhere in all of his paintings. Mike lives and works in Hill City.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.